Okay, so let's jump right in, folks. Hey, thanks for watching. We're going to talk about toilets today. We have to have them. Well, we don't have to, but it sure is nice to have a toilet. And if you experience constant clogs in your toilet, you may be frustrated. You may be wondering, why is this happening all the time? So we're going to break down a few reasons as to why it's going to be happening. So number one, what's going down the toilet? Now that's a big one. It's pretty obvious. So the main culprit here can be kids, especially when they're learning to get potty trained. Sometimes they'll be in there and they'll just wind the toilet paper off the roll and toss half a roll in the toilet, and that's naturally going to clog the toilet up. Could be toys, who knows, clothes. You never know what gets flushed down the toilet, but that's a lot of times what can cause clogs in your toilet. Of course, the load also matters, and I can't say that I'm not guilty of that, and I can't help you with that, but I can tell you to try to monitor, obviously, what goes in the toilet. Don't flush things, feminine napkins, sanitary napkins, tampons, those type of things. Those can cause problems in the toilet because a lot of times they're not quite as biodegradable as you want them to be. Even the wipes that you can use that are supposedly septic friendly or biodegradable or flush friendly, those can oftentimes cause problems as well because they get clumped together, and then the grease from the kitchen joins in, and then you just make a big old ball of goo, and that can clog a pipe. So be very aware of what you flush down the toilets. Try to keep it to only what you put in there in terms of your body and toilet paper. Make sure that it's a good biodegradable. Make sure that it definitely is compatible for what you need. You don't want to be, again, using wipes um, that are not able to be flushed down the toilet, like baby wipes. Those are not supposed to be flushed down the toilet. So what's going down the toilet is a big factor that you can pretty much control and stop at the onset. Okay. Number two, style of toilet. So as you can imagine, there's different styles, and really this kind of gets to the efficiency. A lot of states are cracking down on the efficiency of a toilet, and you can see this headline right here. It's just getting to a point where uh, red tape, government is really coming in and trying to regulate the amount of water that your toilet uses. Chances are, if your home was built before 1995, you probably, and you still have the same toilet, you probably have a toilet that uses maybe up to, we'll say 1995 or older. It's going to be using maybe up to 3.5 gallons of water per flush. That's a lot of water, but think about this. It's like a water slide. You don't go down a water slide with just a little trickle of water. It's not going to end well. It's not going to go well. It's going to sound like a squeegee as you go down that water slide. That's what today's toilets are kind of like. Now, the older toilets would send a lot more water, therefore flushing those solids down the pipe with a lot more water flow, keeping the pipes a little bit cleaner. Yes, they use more water, but at the same time, I would love to know a comparison of the amount of money people spend on drain unclogging today as they did 30 years ago. I don't think there's a study that's been done, but I would venture to say it might be a ton higher. So what we're spending, what we're not spending on the water, you're now spending on a drain professional come out and snake your lines. So today, and by the way, if you're in the 1995 or newer home, you could be using as little as 1.28 gallons per flush. Look at the difference, 3.5 down to 1.28. That's, well, what is that, 60%, 65, 70% less water here. So just imagine those solids are sitting in that pipe longer with less water to flush them. They're going to build up and create more clogs. So the style of the toilet could very well be a huge reason as to why you're experiencing consistent clogs in your toilet, and you can't really do nothing about it. It's a law. They're making this a law, and they're penalizing or literally fining builders or even home buyers that are buying a home that may have been a 95 home that's not been updated. They're making either the buyer or the seller, depending on which state it's going to be, they're making them pay for these upgrades in an older home. So this is probably a big reason. And go and figure, I mean, I hate to say it, but clogs are basically caused by a bunch of red tape, and that's a shame. But again, they're trying to do it in the name of saving water. And out in those western states, sure, there is definitely issues with water supply at times. So anyway, that's probably a big culprit to many of you who are experiencing constant clogs in your toilet. Let's move on to the next one. Number 3, connection to the floor pipe. Now this is pretty interesting because where the toilet sits on the floor, you'll have a pipe usually, and I've drew this here. It's a little bit angled. You can see that sometimes, if like it's a renovation or a flip, the pipe may come up and it may be stubbed 3 inches off from where it should be. So they'll put this angled or swivel type pipe to adjust over, and it creates a bottleneck here and here where it joins the other pipe as it leaves. So this could be an issue where the toilet actually, it may not be lined up very well, and it could be clogging right there consistently. Now, if you have a flipped home or some DIY work that's been done, that could be a reason. If it wasn't clogging before, and say you went in and tried to renovate your bathroom and you did this, you put in the offset flange, I guess you will, the offset pipe, that could be a reason why it's clogging now as opposed to then. So just that's one that you can be tipped off by. Was it before? If it was fine before, but now it's doing it after the renovation, that could be one of the reasons why. Is that connection point right here at the floor? Okay. So next one, and probably one of the biggest ones, and going to be unfortunately the most costly ones to fix. We're going to talk drain line composition, fittings, or install itself. So we're going to flip the board over. I'm going to show you what we got here. So this is just a basic simple diagram. Here's our home here. We've got the toilet. Again, there's that offset flange that you can see that could be causing some buildup in the pipe or in the line right there. So drain line composition, let's talk about that first. We're going to talk cast iron. Now here's a picture of old cast iron that has years of built up rust and solids in it. You can see that this is one of the primary reasons why cast iron is not used today. It's just an outdated material. But with that said, if you still have cast iron, and that was generally cast iron was in, we'll say, the 1900s and maybe even in the late 1800s to about 1980 is when cast iron was really widely used. And so if you have cast iron, you can see it's going to just build up over time as the inside starts to rust and get just smaller and smaller and smaller until you just can't get anything through it. And by that time, you're going to need a whole line replacement. That's what I talked about earlier, the cost here. Sometimes I've always heard minimum cost could be 10 grand from this point at the house, clean out all the way out to the tie-in at the municipality. It can be 10 grand. So again, depends on distance, depends on terrain, trees, and so forth. Okay, next up, we're going to talk the fittings. So if you'll notice here, this fitting is what we would call a sanitary T-type fitting. It's generally, again, in 1995 or earlier, you may see this fitting used in homes, but today it wouldn't be used in this orientation. If it's used in a horizontal application on a drain line, you can expect those solids to fall right down through and hit the base and build up right here. Okay, this is a picture of what they use today. Notice the gentle bend on this pipe here, and that's going to allow those solids to slide. Again, think water slide, think the whole water slide principle. That's going to allow those solids to slide down that pipe a lot easier and not get built up right here at the base of this pipe. So fittings are a big problem and can be chronic. And this maybe you don't realize that you have these fittings. If your home again was built somewhere in the 90s or earlier, you may very well have these fittings installed in this orientation right here. Now, as a vent fitting on a vent pipe or on a vertical where it's dropping down, say this fitting was oriented up this way and it's joining here and then it's going and flowing, it probably is going to work, but not in this particular scenario. So it could be your fittings, okay? And then it could be, our last could be basically installation of the pipe, and then we'll talk about the trees at the very end. But the installation could be, for instance, maybe the pipe's running uphill and it's pitched wrong. There's a specific pitch that a drain pipe must adhere to in order for those solids to make their way down and out to the municipality. So it could be all the way back to the installation. Again, these are costly items because we're talking some manual labor that needs to happen to get these things fixed, especially if you've got that cast iron in your home. Okay, so, and then lastly, this is more nature instead of man-made. Like we talked earlier about toys and stuff flushed down the toilet that shouldn't be. But this one here is basically time, and it can affect either PVC or cast iron or whatever type of piping you've got going from your home out to the road. For instance, maybe there's a bad fitting, a fitting that wasn't glued on PVC piping, and the tree roots eventually get to there, and they can get inside that fitting and grow. And here's a picture of what an obstructed line with tree roots looks like. It's pretty crazy. You can see how that would clog things up. And not only will it clog it up, but it will create a backup all the way literally up to here, because the solids and even liquids sometimes cannot get through this obstruction. It can go through a bad fitting, a crack in old cast iron. Work that's been done can damage either PVC or cast iron. Anything that damages this pipe, it can allow tree roots or shrubs or whatever roots to get into this pipe and obstruct it and create a kind of a nightmare scenario, because there again, you're going to have to replace pretty much this section from the home all the way out to the municipality. So I hope this gives you a good idea. If you've got toilets that clog constantly, hope this gives you a good idea as to what it could be. And let's hope it's just number one, literally and figuratively back on the board. Let's just hope that it's the number one reason up here that we have erased, but what's being flushed down the toilet. Number two, again, you're going to be more subjected to the government on this one, the style of toilet or the efficiency of that toilet. And then number three and number four, kind of, those are the big ticket items where big dollar bills can start to come into play. All right, folks, thank you for watching. Thank you for making this possible. I sure appreciate it. I'm just here to try to help you understand your home and give you help when needed. And I can't say enough about how grateful I am so far in this very early journey down the road here. So thanks again. Have a good one.